But good morning, I'm Erin Christensen and I manage employer relations for the Bloch Career Center at UMKC. And a few weeks ago, we had announced officially that we were going to host our career fairs in a virtual format. And rightfully so, we received a lot of questions about what that would look like and how we could continue supporting our employer partners in a virtual space. So we kind of I thought it might be a good idea to host a webinar to help share this information in a more efficient way. And I think it will be more helpful and we'll be able to share information more vastly than we would have been able to by me responding to these one-on-one emails or phone calls that I was doing. So we're so happy that we've had such a great turnout for this event. And like I said, this is being recorded, so please share this with any folks on your team that might be supporting your recruiting processes this fall. Also on the call are Maggie Rayland and Tess Serpernant from the Bloch Career Center as well. And they're going to be my right-hand men as we move forward or through this, but I'll be presenting the majority of the information and they'll be responding to questions through the Q&A feature. So please utilize that as we work through this information. And I want to throw it out there that this is our first time hosting a virtual fair and doing virtual campus recruiting in this format, as I'm sure it is for many of you. So we appreciate your patience and flexibility as we move through the summer and through the fall. But don't hesitate to ask questions. And if we don't have the answer today, we will do our very best to get the answer for you as the summer continues. So before we get started, we just have a few poll questions that we wanted to ask just to kind of gauge what folks were planning on doing for the fall. And hopefully that will guide our conversation a little bit and then also help us kind of determine what support and services we need to provide during the fall semester as well. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that poll. If you wouldn't mind just taking a quick minute to respond to those, and I will share the responses. There's still a few votes coming in, so we'll give it a few more seconds. We're seeing some questions about they haven't received the poll. I believe it should just be popped up on your screen. Is that? It should have just been, it should just be an automatic pop-up for those who are having issues accessing the poll. And I'll share the results here and as they're still trickling in. If it didn't pop up, I'm not sure if there's at the bottom of your screen where there might be a Zoom menu, there might be a notification that a poll is waiting to be popped up. If you could check that. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and end the poll. So 87% we voted, and this is kind of what we were expecting / hoping to see. We know that a lot of folks are in flux right now with how they plan on doing their recruiting in the fall. So that not sure yet response, that doesn't surprise me. But I love seeing that so many of you plan on attending virtual fairs this fall, as well as a good majority of you, or just slightly over half of you, are anticipating that your hiring needs aren't changing. So we know that there are several organizations where COVID has affected their hiring needs. For our students' sake, we love hearing that there's a good chunk of you that that still plan on hiring in at the same volume as you have in the past. So that's exciting. So thank you for everyone who voted. And are you able to see the response? I just saw someone ask. I thought I shared it. I apologize if I didn't. Okay, so we're going to jump into share my screen real quick for my slides. Okay, so we wanted to provide a quick update on not only what our office is doing, but what UMKC's plans are for the fall semester. That's a common question that we've been receiving. It's obviously a very fluid situation as well. So I'm going to provide an update as to what UMKC's plans are for classes and for different events that we can have on campus, as well as an update on our office. And then the bulk of our discussion will be around virtual recruiting and our virtual fair platform. So UMKC is planning on continuing with our regular schedule. Our classes start on August 24th and will continue through the beginning of December. We know that many institutions have changed their start date. They've moved it up to accommodate for their semester ending a little bit earlier. The system actually as a whole has made the decision to stick with their regular calendar. We are doing our very best to host in-person classes and having at least some sort of in-person component to our classes as well. The interesting challenge that we're being faced with is that to allow for appropriate social distancing, our classrooms can only be filled to 25% capacity. So so we're finding that faculty if they're not able to accommodate full in-person classes by adding additional sections, they are offering a blended format. So for example, a class that might be held on Tuesdays and Thursdays might be held, half of the students would show up in person on Tuesday while the other half is logged in virtually, and then it flips on Thursday. So students are still getting that in-person component. And then we do have some faculty as well as some academic units who have made the decision to strictly just have their classes hosted online. I can say specifically about the Bloch School of Management at UMKC, it's our goal to provide some sort of in-person format, but ultimately it's up to the discretion of our faculty and how they want to host those classes. And then there are some obvious restrictions on the kinds of events that we can have, but an obvious one is because we're having to add additional sections to our classes as well as host classes in larger space than what we normally would have held those classes. There's very few spaces for other activities to happen on campus, including our office. And I'll be talking about this in a little bit, but most of our, if not all of our activity for the fall will be conducted in a virtual way. And then this was recently added. So like I said, this is a very fluid situation. And honestly, when I put together these slides last week and even did a run through real quick with Tess Friday morning over the content, that face mask requirement was not listed. And then the mayor of Kansas City came out Friday afternoon, and I think it's indefinitely that face masks will be required within the city. And so that obviously changed the requirement, or not required. We were originally not going to require students to wear masks. Now they will be required to wear masks, as well as faculty, staff, and any guests that are on campus. So these are our updates, and for as of June 30th, but like I said, everything has been very fluid, and it could potentially change, and very likely change even a month from now and then come August. So we are doing our best to update our employer partners as well as students on how our office will be operating in the fall, but I did want to provide this quick update because I know we've had a lot of questions from employers on what the status of this semester looks like. So for our office, we have been working remote since the middle of March, and like any other organization, we have a repopulation plan put into place. What that means for us is that our office won't return back into, or our staff won't return back into the office until August 3rd. Our plan is to have some sort of in-person staff for the fall semester. However, our one-on-one appointments with students will continue to be virtual. To be honest, the way that our one-on-one appointments with students are how they're conducted, it will be very difficult to do those within the social distancing guidelines that are provided, as well as how our offices are currently, I guess, designed. It would be difficult as well. So we still want to maintain some sort of staff presence in the office for students who might pop in, especially new students who aren't sure or just want to learn more about our office. But for the most part, our student interaction will be done strictly virtually. So I'm sure you are wondering what that means for you. You know, as we continue through the summer, I think it's becoming more and more apparent, not just from us, but what we're hearing from employers, that the preference, and I think the recommendation is that our employer events will need to be virtual, or the desire is there for them to be virtual. So we're recommending, and we would still love for you to host, if you normally hosted information sessions or office hours or interviews, we would still love for you to do those just in a virtual way. We are still planning on having what we would consider our regular activity and programming, and are finding ways to do it virtually. And then obviously our career fairs. And I say interviews because we would still love to help out with your interviews, also help manage those schedules. So if you normally conduct on-campus interviews, we would still love for you to host those through Handshake, and then we would help you manage that schedule. We're also giving students the the ability to use our interview rooms to do virtual interviews also, because it's a space that they might be familiar with, or it might be more convenient for them. So if you are interested and would like to, or if you have done on-campus interviews with us before and you would like to chat through how that would look, please feel free to reach out and we can look at getting those scheduled. We have, there are only a couple of events, and interviews are listed there, that we think we could still do in person. And I say interviews because while the preference and the recommendation is that you would still host them virtually, if you're adamant about doing them in person, you would still need to wear a face mask during the entirety of the day while you're interviewing, as well as a student. And like I said, that's a new requirement. And then we would adjust your schedule to account for cleaning in between interviews. So if you are insistent on doing in-person interviews, feel free to reach out and we can talk through what that would look like. We do also think, if you're comfortable with it, hosting the ability to have information or welcome back tables throughout the semester would be fine as well. Usually those don't draw huge crowds at once. But again, you'll have to wear a face mask, and if you normally give items away, just think about the packaging, and that would go along with that, as well as we are not allowing food unless it's prepackaged in some way on campus either. So I think the bulk of a lot of people's questions are, what do virtual fairs look like, and how we'll be hosting them? You know, it was pretty evident in early April. Tess and I were about 90% sure that we would be moving forward with our fairs in a virtual space. And that is when we started shopping around for different platforms and conducting different demos with the different providers. And Handshake ultimately made the most sense to us for a variety of reasons. The first being, there's a level of comfort for both employers and students, as well as our staff. Our students and you guys won't have to make a new account, yet again, another account to be managed with through another university. It's also, since this is all new to a lot of us, we didn't want to add one more system that you would have to learn in addition to learning how to virtually recruit. There are quite a few features that we were really impressed with that Handshake is providing that others didn't have, and I'll talk about those in a little bit. And we've been really impressed with the support and training that Handshake has provided thus far and plans on continuing to provide throughout the summer and into the fall semester. So the different features that Handshake is providing are one-on-one appointments. So when a student registers for the career fair, they have the ability to essentially go in and schedule one-on-one appointments with different companies. These are 10 minutes in length. As of right now, those are not editable. I know that 10 minutes seems like a long time, and I know many of you might spend at max 5 minutes talking to a student. The nice thing is that you'll have the ability to have more staff members attending the fair and managing schedules. So while 10 minutes will eat up more of your time, and you will still be able to have more staff members talking to students. So at the end of the day, I think you'll actually be able to talk to more students with the addition of the staff members than not. And you can customize those schedules as well. So if you are an engineering firm, for example, and you want one recruiter that only is talking to civil engineers, you can make those specifications while you're setting up those schedules. And you can have another recruiter or even a hiring manager set up a schedule just to talk to mechanical engineers, and so on and so forth. You can also set different parameters around GPA as well as year in school also. So the schedules that you're setting up for those one-on-one appointments are fairly customizable, which is exciting, because if students don't meet those qualifications, they won't even be given the option to sign up for a time with you. With that said, though, we know that there are quite a few younger students who like to attend the fairs just to get the feel for it, or just to talk to companies and learn about the organization, even though they're not at a place to start an internship or full-time job search. And this was an exciting feature that Handshake is rolling out, which is the addition of these group sessions. So each company will be able to have up to 3 group sessions that can be 30 minutes in length, and up to 50 attendees can, or up to 50 participants can attend. A recommendation from Handshake, and I love this, is structuring those group sessions to be targeted towards different populations. So for example, if you wanted to talk to freshmen and sophomores about just a very high level overview of your organization, what they can do now to be looked at as a successful candidate later on. Those are all, you can structure a group session to fit different topics, and you can have another one that is geared more towards juniors and seniors if you wanted to. You certainly don't have to do all three. If you want to do one, you can do one as well. And you don't have to do any of them if you don't want to, but we thought it was a cool option that Handshake was providing. And you can customize the time. So not if you want your group session to start at 10:30, for example, but another company wants their first one to start at 12 p.m., you can totally do that as well. So the customization with the group sessions in terms of time is there. And then this was, I think, what we were really most excited about with Handshake is that you can invite students through Handshake to come speak with you at the career fair. You can do the filtered search based off of what you are looking for in candidates for internships or full-time, and send them a customized email with a link to sign up for a time to chat with you at the career fair. I know that that has been a concern for companies, especially smaller organizations or organizations who are new to recruiting at UMKC. They might not have the name recognition. We really are encouraging you to do some of that outreach on your own beforehand. And I know I can say, and I know other folks in our office can attest to this, that if I send out an email saying XYZ organization is going to be on campus on Thursday and they want to chat with you, it will mean a lot more if that comes directly from the company than if it comes from our office. So we are really encouraging employers to take advantage of that feature to help brand your company going into the career fair. So to prepare for the career fair, your Handshake account needs to be as updated and as complete as possible. And this is just to make the event and to as successful as possible for your organization. Your job postings should be current, and you should have updated contact information. There are a lot of times when I go into Handshake and a student might be looking for a contact, or someone else from our staff might be looking, and I go in and I'm like, well, that's not normally who's there. And so please make sure that people who have left your organization are out of Handshake, and those who are going to be attending the career fair are in Handshake. And that is something new that you'll need to consider. Before, when we would ask for registration information from companies, I would ask, how many would be attending for your company at the career fair, and you would just give me a number. Some people would list names and some wouldn't, and that's totally fine. But if they are managing any type of schedule and are talking to students or participating in those group sessions, they need to have some sort of profile in Handshake. They don't have to have an administrator account level profile. Handshake is they've created a new, profile for individuals who would be attending just the career fair but don't really need to have access to Handshake for anything else. And those are called ambassadors. You can kind of see very small. I did a screenshot from Handshake, and you'll see the individuals listed and what their roles are in Handshake. So this will require a little bit more pre-planning on on your guys' parts, because I know some of you don't quite know who would be attending the fair until maybe a couple of days beforehand or even a week beforehand. But in order to open up those schedules for students to sign up, you'll have to have a fairly solid idea leading at least a couple of weeks leading into the career fair. Now that can be changed, but for the most part, we would like that you have that you've done that pre-planning ahead of time. So there isn't, because we have to make those changes for you, I believe. So there isn't as much editing of those schedules on our part that we need to do. So some frequently asked questions that we've been receiving is, how many representatives can we have? You can have up to 15, which is awesome. Normally our standard career fair registration accounts for 4, and then you have to pay per additional representative that would be attending. So 15 is a lot. I don't think we've ever, for in-person fairs, we've ever had more than 10. maybe. But keep in mind, if you're attending a fair that's 4 hours in length and you have, say, 7 representatives, or you have 7 schedules going, and you only want 7 people to talk in the morning and then an additional 7 in the afternoon, that's 14 that would count towards your 15. So just keep that in mind. It's not just 15 individual schedules, it's 15 representatives for your company attending the fair. You can certainly have up to 15 individual schedules if you want. Can we have departmental schedules? Absolutely. You can, like I said, you can customize schedules based off of your hiring needs. And if you have hiring managers from specific departments who only want to talk to, HR students or engineering students or whatever it might be, you can customize those schedules to account for those hiring needs and what those recruiters or hiring managers want to talk to. Will we be able to share screens? Yes, you can. And you will also be able to view a student's Handshake profile, which if you haven't really done much in Handshake up until now, their Handshake profiles are designed very similarly to LinkedIn or even a resume, and their resumes are also posted in Handshake. We are doing a lot, and Maggie is awesome and is spearheading this effort leading into the fall semester, but getting our students prepared and having their Handshake profiles as complete and up to date as possible. But yes, you can share your screen. You can also view a student's Handshake profile, which that was another exciting feature. Some of the other platforms we looked at didn't have that functionality. Handshake is providing their own video platform, but you do not have to use it. So if your organization utilizes Zoom or WebEx and you would prefer to host those video appointments through those platforms, you absolutely can use those and not use Handshake. I will say that Handshake has been consulting with ADA consultants to make sure that everything is accessible for students who have those needs. So keep that in mind. There's also a chat feature as well. So if a student, for some reason, or for you, if you're having like video issues, you can still chat with the student. And that chat box is also accessible while you're videoing with the student as well. So there are a couple of different options for ways that you can interact with students during those appointments. Before I jump into the next couple of slides, I wanted to see if there were any, I know Maggie and Tess have been fielding a lot of questions, if there were any common themes that I should go over.
Yes, so I think the one question we just got was if a company is sharing one login for Handshake, does that equate to one schedule, or would each of those recruiters need to have their own Handshake accounts in order to set up their own?
They will need to have their own Handshake account, so their own login. So that is something that I think some companies aren't as familiar with, or I know some organizations might use an external like staffing source. So keep that in mind as well as you're creating those schedules, even though it might be someone that you've hired to manage all of your campus recruiting. If they're ultimately not the ones interacting with students, you'll need to look into how you want those accounts created for the individuals that would be meeting with students.
Thank you. We also had a lot of questions about the group sessions, if they have to be the same day as the fair, if they have to be during those specific fair hours, just a little bit more about how they work.
Yeah, so they do need to be during the fair and during the fair hours. However, I equate those to what we would normally do for an information session outside of the career fair. So if you were wanting to do an information session leading up to the career fair, we are absolutely able to help you get that going, and we can schedule it through Handshake. We can provide the Zoom link as well if your organization doesn't have that capability, and help you do the marketing and promotion for it, just as we would have for an in-person information session. But those specific group sessions for the that are through the career fair platform for Handshake, those are designated during those career fair times.
I think those were our common themes so far.
Okay, great.
And Erin, quickly, do you know if Handshake has a specific demo? I've been sharing the links that you sent me, but do they have a demo for employers set up yet?
Yeah, so they will on July 30th, and actually that's a good segue into my next slide, just some upcoming dates. So on July 30th will be our virtual, or Handshake is going to be hosting a virtual fair webinar and demo for employers. And then I have listed our upcoming career fairs at UMKC below. I really encourage you to attend that demo and webinar if you're able to. They will also, if you register for it and you know you're not able to attend, they will still send you a recording of the demo also. But if you still have questions following that demo or leading up to it, I'm happy to walk you through with the resources that we've been provided through Handshake. Maggie has shared everything that we've had access to, and there's some really good screenshots that give you an idea of what the demo will look like and what the platform will look like. So I would definitely check out those manuals that Maggie has shared. But if you're able to attend that July 30th webinar, I really encourage you to, because they'll be providing they'll be going over a lot of what I just went over, but they'll be providing additional information regarding just promoting yourself and marketing yourself to students as well. Handshake's been awesome at gathering that data as to what students are looking for and how organizations should be marketing themselves leading up to really any type of an event. They've done this before. They did this prior to this virtual space anyway. So, so I would look out for any information that you get from Handshake regarding that webinar, and I will plan on sending it. I do not have the link yet for it for you to register. I plan on attending it just to see, just so I know on the employer end of things what it looks like. And once I receive that, I am happy to share it with everyone that has attended this webinar as well. And then, like I said, we have our upcoming career fairs listed here. And yeah, so if you plan, also I wanted to put a caveat in, if you plan on attending more than one career fair, we are happy to talk about a discount for you as well. So please let us know if you plan on attending multiples, and we'll talk through that pricing structure for you. And then lastly, I have my contact information. I'm sure many of you have it, but I have listed it on this last slide, as well as our Handshake link as well. So if you, many of you should have a Handshake account. That's how I accessed your contact information. But if you're not quite sure, our Handshake link is listed below, and you have my direct contact information. If you have any upcoming questions or would just like to talk more in depth about recruiting at UMKC. I was excited to see so many organizations that we haven't had on campus before. And so if you would like to chat more about what your specific needs are and how we can best support you, especially in this virtual space, and if you're a new organization, I would love to talk to you about how we can do that.
Erin, can I throw a couple of questions your way?
Sure.
So you spoke about this in terms of the group sessions. Can you talk a little bit more about how employers can set up their one-on-one interview schedules with certain criteria so that they're getting the students funneled to them that they want to talk to?
Yeah, let me go back. I'm going to flip through. I believe I shared a screenshot. Okay, so if you look at the screenshot, which I know is a little bit small, so you can register for our fairs now. In any school that has their fairs posted, you can register now. You, it will be at the beginning of August is when you can go through and customize those schedules, and you will be prompted to, and you'll receive also an email. And in one of those manuals that Maggie had provided, there was like a sample email that you should look out for, saying like, we know that you're registered for XYZ career fair. It is time for you to go and add your schedules. And then it will prompt you, and this will be one of the screens. So this is, so first ask you to add your team members that will be attending the career fair. So that's why you should be doing some prep work now. So when you do need to add those team members, their accounts are already in Handshake. So making sure that their contact information is up to speed and everything is updated. And then, so you'll add your team members, and then you can add or not any group sessions that you want and what times you would like to have them. And then your one-on-one sessions. And so this is where you'll see those team members listed, what their roles are, and then their one-on-one session. So if I wanted to create a one-on-one session for Brent, I would hit add, and then it would prompt me in this qualifications area to add whatever qualifications I wanted to. So major, GPA, year in school, whatever those fields look like for you. And I'm 90% in tests you might remember from our webinars. I feel like you can also attach those schedules to different positions that are posted in Handshake. I could be wrong, but I feel like I've heard that from Handshake, and you'll get more information on that, obviously on the 30th. But if there are specific, like if Brent is hiring for specific positions, you can link it to those positions. Now, again, I might be, just so students could be a little bit more prepared leading into those one-on-one sessions. I could be wrong, but.
Hi, Erin, that was my understanding too. So if we misunderstood, we both misunderstood.
Okay. Well, hopefully that means we're both right. And I think that's an exciting feature because students don't always know what positions companies are hiring for when they attend the career fair. And some are just going to build a pipeline and they don't have specific positions at present that they're hiring for. And you certainly don't need to attach a position to those schedules, but that's a feature as well. So I hope that answered those questions. I also wanted to point out, if the fair is running from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., you don't have to have all of your schedules running that entire length either. So if Brent is only available to talk to whoever he wants to talk to for the first 2 hours of the day, you can do that. Or he might not be able to start until 11. You can do that if you don't have the staffing to fill in those spots. You can also build in breaks. So if Brent has a meeting, a half-hour meeting during the career fair, you can build in that break as well. And that's a nice feature because obviously you can't do that when you're attending an in-person fair. I hope that helped answer that question.
Erin, we have a couple questions, and I wonder if maybe you know the answers to. I do not.
Okay.
So one was, how soon before the career fair will the employers be able to email students through Handshake and invite them to set up an appointment?
So as soon as your schedules are created, you'll be able to do that. So it doesn't make sense to invite students if you don't have those schedules created. And my understanding is once that July 30th employer webinar happens, that basically the beginning of August is when employers can start going in to create those schedules, because we know that there are other schools that have fairs much earlier than us as well. And so Handshake wanted schools and employers to be able to start building those schedules as early as possible. So ideally, the plan is August 30th, or not August 30th, sorry, the beginning of August after that July 30th date.
And then Erin, the training session that will be on July 30th, is that specific to UMKC or is that a more general?
It's for everyone. So it's not specific to our campus and to our career fairs. That is for any employer planning on attending any career fair. That's why it's really important if you're able to go, because I know many of you attend multiple career fairs, and I'm sure some of them, more than one of them, is a Handshake campus, and will be utilizing Handshake for their virtual fairs. So it's hosted through Handshake. I will be attending just like you would be, so I understand the back end of it, or the employer end of it, I should say. But it's not UMKC specific.
Can answer this question from Alex about how this is all being communicated to students. So Erin and I will be doing a webinar much like this in the coming weeks, where we'll be going over all of the different changes and how to utilize Handshake for the virtual fair. I'll also be doing a ton of email blasts out about it, as well as a couple of weeks of workshops about how to work a virtual career fair. So we'll make sure that the students are well versed in all of the changes.
Yeah. And I will say, you know, towards the end of the spring semester, I mean, we've been continuing our programming through the summer, which we honestly, in a normal summer, we didn't do a ton of student programming, but towards the end of the spring semester, it was surprising to see how much student engagement we were continuing to have, because normally after, and as you guys know, after spring break, engagement declines. And a lot of questions were around, how do we continue networking and building relationships in a virtual space? So I feel very confident that our students are going to do everything they can to have this be as successful of a semester as possible, knowing that hiring needs could potentially change for employers, and that the market is just different right now in terms of employment. And so we've been preparing students that they're going to have to work a little bit harder than their peers that have graduated in the last few years. So I'm confident, and I'm sure Maggie and Tess feel the same way, that our students will do what they need to do to allow for these events to be successful. Tess, did you have another question?
Not, hold on, something, let me just read.
Okay.
No, I think.
We do have one about the virtual info sessions, sort of outside the fairs.
Yeah.
If we will ask employers to use Zoom, which is what we use, or if we will allow employers to use whatever video platform they're most comfortable with.
Yeah, I mean, you guys can use whatever platform you're most comfortable with. And if I know several companies are a WebEx company, so if that's what you prefer, absolutely. We utilize Zoom for UMKC, and all of our students have they have pro accounts for Zoom for their classes. So that's what they're comfortable with, but you can use whatever platform you would like. If you need us to create the event for you, if you don't have that ability, we are happy to do that also. Just like any other event that we would, like if you did an in-person info session, someone from our staff would be there, and the same would go for a virtual event. So if we were creating that event and we're still the host of the event, one of us will be there to help field any UMKC specific questions or to help you out on the back end. But you can use whatever platform you would like, and we would still market it as we would for any other in-person event. Anything else?
I think that's all the questions that have come in so far.
Okay.
Colby Kaufman asked really quickly, I don't think it went out to everyone, if we would be willing to share the tips that we're giving to students with employers so that we're all on the same page. And absolutely, I will send Erin my presentation so that she can just distribute that to all of you.
Yeah, and I think I'm in this, not necessarily a plug, but I guess it will be, pretty much everything that we have been putting out there for students specifically has been put on our YouTube channel, which we quickly created in the spring. And so if you're ever interested in what kind of advice that we're sharing with students and how you can support that, feel free to subscribe to that YouTube channel or to check out that content. I know whatever presentation Maggie will put together, she'll more than likely record and it will live on that YouTube channel, but I am happy to share it as well to the attendees here. And if you're ever interested, this is kind of a plug for our volunteer opportunities. If you're ever interested to sit on industry panels to help out with mock interviews or resume reviews, feel free to let me know, and we'll talk about how you can get involved in those types of opportunities. And we've also been using employers to support some of that student programming that Maggie's been putting together as well. So if that's something of interest to you, I'd be happy to talk to you about those. Great. Well, if there isn't anything else, I so appreciate you all taking time. I'm just going to the end. So taking time out of your morning to learn more about what we're doing at UMKC to support the virtual recruiting efforts. We hope this was helpful in clarifying questions that you might have about what the fall semester looks like, and then just virtual recruiting in general. But you have my contact information. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out and we can talk through your specific organization and how we can best market it to students and the opportunities that you have. So, and thank you, Maggie and Tess, for your support on this. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.